This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me, as usual, are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everyone.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Hello.
This week, we have four main reviews. We're going to kick off with the World War II set thriller Warblade. Then we have Kevin Hart in Lift. And then a couple of films we picked up off Paramount Plus, Sheroes and Slotherhouse. Our short shot is The Lumberjack, and our DTV throwback is Leslie Nielsen in Wrongfully Accused. So, without further ado, let's crack on. Our first film then is Warblade. RAF officer Robert Banks is teamed up with an explosive expert and sent into occupied France to help rescue a resistance fighter from a secret Nazi bunker. Okay, this is pretty well shot, reasonably well acted, and it's from a director I've covered before who did a film called Robin Hood the Rebellion, which I remember being very good. It's a very good film, except when it came to the fighting. You know, the fight scenes were dreadful. They obviously didn't have a budget for it, but everything else about the film worked. It was really quite enjoyable. I did get a lot out of this. It does fail in a couple of areas. One of my sort of chief niggles being the sound effects, because every gun in this sounds like it's a Christmas cracker being pulled, which is a real shame. And the editing, I think it just needs to be a bit more snappy. Basically, it's nothing new, really, but you know, it is quite a sort of nihilistic, sort of men on a mission, you know, team being depleted one by one kind of scenario, but I did like it for the most part. I do have a couple of other comments to make, but I will jump in as we go. So, Steve, what did you make of Warblade?
Yeah, I thought it was very, very slow, and it just didn't get the blood pumping in any way. Really, I thought it was very, very just bland. I don't know. There was something missing. I mean, when he starts off, I thought it was basically just like an Inglourious Basterds ripoff, where they're, you know, in the room, being sent on the mission, expected Mike Myers to pop up any second. And then it just seems flat. There's no, very stiff upper lip, you know, with the characters and stuff. And some of the characters are just annoying. There's one bloke in it called Vincent. He's an arsehole. And then the woman, I can't remember her name now.
The British one or the French or the nurse?
The British one. And she's just, I don't know, she's just like awful. She's just an arsehole all the way through. And not so much the actress, just the character. I just didn't like the character at all. She just annoyed me. And like you say, the editing could do definitely being tightened up. And it just seems languid, the whole thing. I don't know. It just didn't gel me or get me going at all, to be fair.
The other element for this that really stood out was we got our two RAF officers having to impersonate German officers at one point in order to infiltrate this bunker. And at no point do they look anything except like a couple of RAF officers wearing a Nazi uniform. Yeah. It is straight out of Allo Alone.
Hello.
It really is. You know, how could any German soldier look at these two guys and go, yeah, that obviously is a German officer? And instead of thinking, well, that's obviously an Englishman pretending to be a bloody officer, is one thing. But then on the flip side of that, you had the main Gestapo guy, who's the cackling evil monologuing arsehole, with his long hair.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, dude, he could have at least committed to the role and got a haircut. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, again, if I was a German soldier, I would have shot him for being a bloody spy. Well, clearly he can't be a Gestapo officer. Look at his hair. It's a bit ridiculous. But Rich, what did you make of Warblade?
I thought it was pretty gentle enough fare for like a Sunday afternoon. Like I think it's the kind of World War II story that I would say in more of like a BBC drama style, maybe not like current BBC, because current BBC they've got loads of money to do much bigger sequences and stuff. But this is this is not an action movie. This isn't Guns and Navarone or anything like that. This is a sort of a small scale story, but I think within more emphasis on drama than action. But I think within the constraints, I think it works well. I think we've seen a lot of low budget sort of period wartime stories, and some of them pull it off better than others. And I think this is one of the ones that does it better. It doesn't try to do more than is within their means.
Sure.
So you've got some a very small cast, a limited number of locations which look nice and authentic. There's not a huge amount of production design or set dressing. But I mean, you go into the guy's office at the start of the movie, and it's basically a big room with a desk. But even big budget movies do a big room and a desk. So I thought that was absolutely fine within the context of also the situation. Some of the other and then once they get down into the tunnels and stuff for the bunker, that all looked quite decent. As you say, photographed well. It looks quite good. I thought the casts were quite decent. What I think elevated it as well was the score. I took a note of the composer Daryl O'Donovan. I almost thought it was it might have been library music, because the standard seemed to be so high compared to the sort of low budget of the production itself. But it does seem to be a completely authentic score composed for the film. The composer has a very long list of credits, including a number of films with this same director, Nicholas Winter, and lots of other shorts and all sorts of other stuff. And the film is I think one of the last films we covered that was a bit like this was The Wolves of War, which actually shares a producer with this one, possibly more than one producer, but Jeet Thakra, whose company Thuggy Films, I think made this one, was one of the primary producers of the film. He's been involved in, say, lots of Nicholas Winter films, as well as even stuff like One Ranger, which is Jesse Johnson's latest film, as well as other films in this similar kind of vein, like Behind the Line, Escape to Dunkirk, which I haven't seen yet, Adventures of Maid Marian, and the Arthur and Merlin film that we saw in Knights of Camelot. And yes, as well as Robin Hood, the Rebellion that you mentioned earlier. So I thought overall I was quite engaged with it. I mean, it's not 100% my cup of tea, but I think, within the means that it had, it's edging closer to. It's not quite a Steve Lawson movie. It was a bit more expansive, but it's sort of in that realm, I would say, of
heading more towards sort of Charlie Steed's kind of budget. I mean, the thing is with a film like this, I think it is a success if you can manage to film external scenes without it looking like just a few guys playing in the woods. I mean, I've seen a lot worse. I've seen, especially from America, where they try this kind of period setting, and it just lacks that cinematic edge to it. I mean, this manages to convey that. You're not just thinking, oh, it's some guys cosplaying. It actually does look like a proper scene, which is that's to be commended for sure. The locations.
Yeah, and there's a bit of fight action as well.
Do get a little bit.
There's a bit of the deaf. See, sorry, I'm just going off on a tangent here. So there's a deaf character in the movie who's quite important to the plot, and him and the hero basically buddy up. And I was just always constantly thinking, are we gonna see a scene where they're like talking and he clearly should have been able to read his lips, but he wouldn't be able to because he wasn't looking at him or something. And
that he doesn't speak English.
Well, I thought for the most part, you know, I thought they were, you know, carrying that well. I did notice that, you know, an effort to, you know, he was looking him in the eye and stuff when he, you know, or the main character at least was what was his name? Banks, I think he's Banks. The officer. He's sort of looking him in the eye. So there is an authenticity to that because he's the other guy whose name I forget is his character's supposed to be an explosives expert, and he's
Archie.
Archie, yeah, and so his ears are shot from that work, which I thought was a really nice, interesting angle. You know, they didn't have to try something that difficult. You know, they could have just made it, you know, just kept that aside, but that added a little bit of an extra interesting element. And there's also that plays into a couple of the scenes. Like there's a misunderstanding with one of the other characters, and he thinks he's, you know, going after his missus or something, and he's like, no, he just didn't hear you coming. it's like it was just, he was caught by surprise, you know, and then that was why he reacted in certain ways and stuff. So I thought there was some nice interplay there. And that, sorry, I apologize. No. I just sort of went off on a tangent there.
Yeah, I mean, like the Robin Hood one. I mean, he Nicholas Winters, he does get good mileage out of his locations. The whole bunker thing, I mean, clearly it hasn't been touched since the Second World War. You know, it's all peeling paint and everything. But you know, it is a good location anyway. I mean, and you know, the lighting and things like that. You're never sort of left in the dark as to what's going on, or you know, nothing's murky or anything. You know, they handle all the sort of night scenes very well. So yeah, on a technical level, it's very good. It's just the pacing. And
I didn't mind the pacing. I know it is a slowly paced story, but I kind of got into the rhythm of that after a while of just sort of accepting that that's the way that kind of, and to say I think it is more, it's a gentle watch rather than anything too with too much exertion. So I think I know it's a bit, I don't know how they would get it, but this is kind of a movie for an older generation, I think, rather than maybe necessarily the youngsters and stuff. So if this would be the kind of movie that I would expect sit out on DVD, it's in the supermarket, you know, the older generation are going around, they pick up a copy and they watch it on a Sunday afternoon. That's kind of what I see this. But this is, you know, we're in the digital realm now and stuff, and you know, someone like my dad is possibly more of an audience for maybe something like this, but he's not gonna do VOD or anything like that to do it. But it might sort of turn up on, you know, get sold to a Netflix or something, and then it, you know, it might find its audience in that way. But I think good job. You know, I mean, let's say the director is very experienced. He's got, you know, over 10 years of directing credits under his belt and stuff. So I think they all knew kind of what they were doing, and that's kind of helped to sort of take this maybe a little bit above what I might have expected, what I did expect going in.
Indeed. And on that note, Steve, how are you going to score Warblade?
I'll give it a 5.
Okay, I am going for a 6. This sits below the likes of The Burial and Condor's Nest as sort of, you know, I think those are better thrillers, as it were, I think. But Rich, how are you going to score this one?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 6 as well.
Okay, 2 6s and a 5 for Warblade. Go check it out. Our next film is Lift. A master thief called Cyrus and his crew are offered pardons from Interpol if they assist them in stealing $500 million worth of gold, being transported by air for a very nefarious deal by a ruthless billionaire. Teaming up with Agent Gladwell, who's been hot on his heels, Cyrus tries to pull off the biggest heist of his career. So we've got another very slick, reasonably expensive looking, very well produced film for Netflix, starring Kevin Hart, who's, you know, he's a very easygoing actor these days. You know, he seems to have sort of slipped into this quite benign kind of role. You know, he's this sort of very, I don't know, you know, after things like what's that thing he did with John Travolta, Rich? The series
Die Hard.
Die Hard, you know, where he's playing this sort of very earnest, very needy guy, and Ride Along with Ice Cube. You know, he's that sort of, you know, wants to impress people. Now he's the guy who is impressing people. So, you know, with this particular role, I enjoyed this. It's very slick, very easy going. It's not anything which is going to stretch your mind or anything. But it's nice seeing all the different pieces come together. You know, all the little sort of twists and things. I mean, you know, the twists are pretty much obvious, but it's still nice to see it all work. You know, it's all works like clockwork, basically. So, Steve, what did you make of Lift?
I enjoyed it, actually. It was... I heard about it coming out. I wasn't that bothered. Then you said, you know, we're going to do it for the show. I thought, okay, stuck it on. And it is what it sets out to be. It's slick, entertaining, fun, nothing too serious, but it does it well. You know, glossy, doesn't expensive. I really enjoyed Gagun Bafara. I think it's a different role for her. It's more action than what I've seen her do before. You know, stuff like Loki and Cloverfield Paradox and stuff like that. It's not something that she's come across as doing. You know, something that she would do, but no, she steps up to the plate well. Yeah, I mean, it does exactly what it sets out to do. Entertaining. I mean, some of it's a bit ridiculous, you know, with the glass roof plane and stuff like that. And I mean, there's that many Chekhov's guns you could you know, arm an army with it, you know. But no, it was a decent, enjoyable, fun flick, and I didn't really expect anything else from it, really.
The guy at the beginning, the artist that they in inverted commas kidnap.
Yeah.
Isn't he the guy who plays Peter Parker's best mate in the Spider-Man films? Yeah,
yes.
I thought so. Yeah. My wife spotted it straight away.
That's the other thing as well. You've got quite a lot of, you know, recognisable. You know, Sam Worthington's in there as well.
Yep.
You know, the baddies. You've got the guy out of Peaky Blinders and the guy out of Torchwood as well.
Yep, that's right. Yeah,
and even John Renault for like 5 minutes, if that. No.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, funny enough, you know, in our last episode we had the 13th Floor, which co-starred Vincent D'Onofrio, and then we got, another interesting performance from him in this one, where he's playing these sort of different personalities. You know, I quite enjoyed that. It just works really. It just, you know, it's certainly a lot more enjoyable than Red Notice, for example, which was, you know, you really just felt everyone was there just for a paycheck. This one at least manages to entertain overall. Rich, your thoughts on Lift?
I think you know, we've seen a lot of these sort of capery kind of movies, like The Misfits.
Misfits
was one of the ones we did recently. But when I was watching it, partly because it's a Netflix film. One that really sprang to mind was Six Underground. I felt like I was watching Six Underground again, almost, because although I think that's quite different in certain respects, but it's got that same kind of globe trotting, big cast of thing led by a charismatic, funny guy. Instead of Ryan Reynolds, we've got Kevin Hart and stuff. Although he's kind of, like you say, he's kind of downplaying the comedy in this one. He's much more of the straight man, and he's kind of got this team around him. And it was reminding me a lot of other things. I mean, I don't know whether Netflix, because they've got an international presence anyway, whether they're going around shooting lots of exteriors and locations and stuff.
Exactly.
They've got a library, basically.
A library of drone footage, very photogenic drone footage of just about every major city, probably.
So various things were coming to mind when I was watching this. It's directed by F. Gary Gray, so I was thinking, this is very much they've hired him because it's like another Fast and Furious movie, basically, like he's already directed. And then I was thinking, as I was watching it, it was reminding me a lot of The Italian Job, which I'd completely forgotten until now that he'd actually directed and I'm talking about the remake, not the original. So this is a lot like and actually I've got the page, the IMDb page open in front of me, and the trailer's playing, and it says from the director of Fate of the Furious and the Italian Job. So these are clearly films that they were intending to be sort of leading on slightly anyway. So those were some of the films, as well as stuff like Mission Impossible coming to mind. I thought overall, it's these films are of a very, very high standard for what is essentially a TV movie or a direct-to-video movie, or however you want to say. The goalposts are so all over the place at the moment, but a film never intended for theatrical distribution. So it's really good quality. There's a lot of CGI in it. Some of it's better than others. Oh, here's the other thing. The first film actually that came to mind was Money Plane. And this is a million times better than Money Plane. But the visual effects and stuff were all mostly good. There's a lot of virtual backgrounds or blue screen kind of stuff. When they go to, like, for example, at the end, when they go to one of the, I'm not going to say what it is, but when they go to one of the locations at the end, we've seen all the establishing shots, but when we see them there, I'm pretty sure they're not there. So I'm pretty sure they're in a studio with a background or whatever it is, and that's the case with a few of the sequences. It seems like it's possibly very studio based.
Well, considering what they do to that place, it's not surprising that it's it would be green screen, I think.
But I think in a way that you wouldn't see in a theatrically released film, for example. You generally don't see it. I mean, I might be wrong there, but it did sort of feel a bit too obvious. So I'd say that they clearly put a lot of money into it. They've worked to a formula. It's very polished. It's got a script by a guy who's actually got only one other credit to his name, which is 12 Rounds, the John Cena movie from 15 years ago. I thought that was what I'd say. The cast is good. I love all the international locations. I love all the, doing stuff in London and it's Italy and all that sort of stuff, which was quite nice. The action's well done. So I would say one thing I need to say is I've got no idea what an NFT is, and I wish they'd establish what an NFT is at the beginning. I know I'm probably left behind, like a Luddite or something, but they just kind of say, oh, they're trying to steal an NFT. No one's ever stolen an NFT before. It's like, what the hell's an NFT? Just tell me. And it's funny because I'm watching a TV series at the moment, and NFT is being mentioned in that as well. And I'm like, but what is it? I know there's sort of somebody said like cryptocurrency and things like that, but it's can you guys explain to me what that is?
It's linked to it. It's basically a single image which hasn't been copied or can't be copied, basically. But it's something which was like mega popular about 2 years ago, and then the market just sort of dropped out of it. And I think it was something like the very first tweet that somebody made into an NFT, and somebody bought it for something stupid like 2 million quid or something ridiculous, and then it was worth like 20,000 at most, afterwards. Yeah, it's something that
I
like
still don't understand what that means, though. What does it mean? They put
it's like
between as an NFT.
they
What does
own,
NFT even stand for?
oh, I can't remember. But it
Oh.
is literally it's like a single image that doesn't exist anywhere else ever. You know,
Okay.
there's no copies of it or anything like that. It is, you know, a one of a kind thing.
So it could be a photo on my camera.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, could be.
It
Okay.
stands for non-fungible token.
Yeah.
Jesus, this is actually getting more complicated. Maybe they did the right thing by not mentioning, explaining what it is. All I could tell was they were trying to steal something that was artsy but made with cameras.
Basically,
That's the first part of the movie that kind of sets things in motion. Oh, Vincent D'Onofrio's in the cast, by the way. I forgot to
mention him.
Oh, you did. Sorry,
I mentioned. Yeah. But
since
since we are name dropping people, one of Kevin Hart's or Cyrus's crew is Ursula Corbero, who is in the Netflix series Money Heist, which is all about a team of people robbing this giant bank in Spain or in Korea, as the they've done a spin-off version of it, and then I think there's another version coming out called Berlin, which is like I can't remember if it's a series or another or a TV movie, you know, based on the series.
I think it's a series. It's out now, but I was a bit confused because I thought when it said Money Heist Berlin that it was set in Berlin. But another thing I was reading makes me think that the character's name.
The character. So in Money Heist, they only know each other by their code names, which is like named after cities.
Oh, okay.
So it's a great series, but it's very long
because it's got like various spin-offs, hasn't it? There's like
well, there's a Korean remake of it.
Oh, it's a remake, right? Okay. Yeah, Money Heist Korea or whatever it was called. Yeah.
Anyway,
so
again, you know, my wife was a big fan of the series. She spotted Ursula immediately, basically. Oh yeah. So
yeah, because she does stand out because she's the one, you know, a bit more well, one you haven't seen her, not really familiar, but she's got the accent and stuff. So she's one of the non-Americans basically, or non-British, non-American in the cast. Sam Worthington, now, was he supposed to be using his natural Australian accent because he works for Interpol, or was he supposed to be English because he's based in England, but it is Interpol, and I wasn't sure what they were doing with his accent.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure at the beginning of the film, he's got a different accent to the one he has at the end of the film.
Yeah,
I think when he's on the airplane, it starts to slip.
Yeah,
it must have been a sort of continuity thing. And they went, oh no, fuck it. But yeah, a very slickly made film. Enjoyable. It's, as I said, certainly better than Red Notice. How are you going to score it, Steve?
I'll give it a 7.
And Rich?
Yeah, I'll give it a 7. Yeah, good job by all involved, I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah, 3 7s then for Lift. You can find this on Netflix. Go check it out. Our next film is Sheroes. When 4 thick-as-thieves friends arrive in Thailand, they quickly find themselves in over their heads. Fighting to stay alive, they employ their unique set of skills and unleash their fierce loyalty in a heart-pumping battle for survival. Okay, bitches. That's the only way to start this review. Does this film make you feel old, Rich? I felt so old watching this. I really did. I thought
it makes me feel something.
I thought there's a serious generational gap with this film, and the next one. Funny enough, these 2 films. Although they did think they may have reignited my desire to write a screenplay, because if these guys can fucking do it and get something made, then you know there's hope for all of us, I think. So Rich, you hardly ever tweet or mention your feelings about any of the films we're covering until we actually start recording, except in this case where you couldn't help but vent your spleen a little bit
and try and warn you off.
Yeah. I think your exact words were, "I'm 5 minutes into this and I'm already hating it."
Yeah, basically.
Is the way you said it, and I can relate. I can certainly relate because it does all the horrible things that I hate. It has the freeze frame character names coming up, all of this sort of stuff. The funniest part of this for me is when they're FaceTiming each other at the beginning, when Diamond is telling them that they're all going to Thailand for the weekend or the week or whatever. And it is the fakest FaceTime. They're supposed to be on their phones, looking into their phone camera. And I don't know, why did they fake it? It looks incredibly fake. They couldn't even just hold a camera up, a phone up to their face, and they couldn't even rely on their cast to do that. It's so weird. Did you notice that? It just looks so incredibly fake at the beginning.
I just thought the whole film looked incredibly fake.
Oh, it does. It's incredibly fake. It is. This film.
Vapid. Obnoxious.
This film, the only audience I think that's going to go for this are 13-year-old girls, maybe. No boy's going to want to touch this.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's an appealing-looking cast of young ladies and action. I was like, "Hey, this could be great fun," and it's just like, no, it's not.
It really no.
It's a film that's trying really hard to be cool and edgy.
That's exactly what it is. Like hashtag, all this sort of stuff. Yeah. All the stuff, the FaceTime and the hearts and stuff coming up at the side of the screen and all of that crap. It just looks so bad.
It's a stupid film as well. Okay, so the characters are they're not action people. They're they're regular people. Some of them have got more money than others.
One's an actress. One's she works in an art gallery. One's a skater chick, probably lesbian. Is a lesbian. And
I'm going to talk about. I mean, their kiss. Okay, the kisses, right? There's like a couple of kisses, and they could not be more awkward, uncomfortable. Their lips are clamped shut, like it's the 1930s or something. It's just like they are really not. They're not selling it at all.
It's like Vin Diesel trying to kiss Asia Argento in Triple X. It is the most awkward kissing ever. It reminded me of an episode of Friends where Phoebe pretends to be hitting on Chandler, and she's like, "Okay, I'm going to kiss you now," and he's like, "Great, okay, right," and it's like the lips are getting closer and closer. Go, no, I can't do it. It's both of them are going, "Think of the paycheck, think of the paycheck." It's just but that was pretty awful.
This is a film about young women, right? And modern young women and edgy and all that. It's written and directed by a man in his who's about 50 years old, I think. He's already late 40s by the time he was making this. So put that in context. I mean, this is like him kind of living out, trying to get these girls doing. It's that kind of movie. It's a guy's strip club movie. It's not a female empowerment kind of movie.
No, it really isn't. These girls are sort of like called upon to, take on a whole drug cartel. The skater chick has to, get involved in a MMA fight to the death for some reason.
Because their friend's been kidnapped, basically.
Yeah,
they come into. It's got the simplest sort of plot setup ever. Is just like, we've accidentally had our bags swapped, and then now we've got a load of drugs, and the bad guys are going to want to get hold of it. It's that plot, which I'm sure I can't remember specific examples, but I know I've seen it a few times. And then it's like Diamond, who's the really rich one. Her dad's a movie star, so she's been on sets and stuff. So she's like, let's orchestrate a rescue. And they get the actress character, who's Isabel Fuhrman, who really deserves a lot better, especially as they get her doing this awful kind of lap dance sequence and stuff, where she's wearing this, this, you know, revealing clothing that it, you know, she deserves a lot better than that kind of thing.
Well,
anyway,
three of them do anyway. I mean,
so Sasha Luss is that character, and she kind of awkward says, "Oh, you know, we can gather ourselves and, you know, take on these guys," and then by the end of the movie, they're like, you know, fully equipped, and you know, they're, which I'm not against that plot, because again, we've seen that whole regular people type. I mean, Red Dawn, for example, you know, does the same kind of thing, although they take on communism as a whole.
Weekend, Rich. You know, in a weekend, you know, but not over years.
But the annoying thing with, well, one of the annoying things, so that by way of doing the whole, we're edgy characters kind of thing, is they're really into drugs, which is something that was also done on the Gen V series recently. You know, they're all really into the drug stuff. But over the course of that series, you know, they do kind of learn their lessons and they have growth and stuff. Whereas in this, literally, the character who's got into all the trouble in the first place, at the very end of the movie, like the final line, like off screen, is, "Oh, can we get some blow?" and stuff. Like these characters have learned nothing. So it's like she goes off right early in the film. So it's like, oh, as soon as she arrives in Thailand, she's like, "I've got to find some coke." It's like, and then like, even one of the friends is like, "We're going, you know, getting really serious in trouble. You know, bad stuff happens if you get caught over here." And she's like, completely, no, I'll just do it. And she's wandering down dark alleys and everything. And we're supposed to sympathize with these characters, and we're supposed to get on board with them. And I'm like, no, can't. Sorry.
Now, in the film Lift, the one we just reviewed, it has like the most ridiculous plane ever. You know, this pimped out plane with a glass roof and all this sort of stuff. This one has a similar strange plane, because it's kind of like the TARDIS for a start. You know, it's a typical you know, private jet on the outside, Learjet, and then you go inside and it's like, oh, it's a nightclub. You know?
Yeah, it's the money plane.
It's a money plane. You know, with these huge sofas and that. No seatbelts. You know, there's not a there's a bit where they go through turbulence and the captain goes, you know, the pilot goes, "Oh, you better strap in, ladies," and they actually look down and go, "Where's the seatbelts?" You know, you can see the actresses looking around, going, "Oh, there's no actual seatbelts for us to wear here." It's it's a very, very silly, vapid. It's even so better than Fortress. But
one of the things I will say, so there's a bit where the actress, the friend has been kidnapped, and the actress character is encouraged to give a speech, and she basically gives the speech from, or a variation of the speech from Taken. And I was just thinking, seriously, the speech from Taken? I mean, that was what, 15 years ago?
15 years ago. Yeah.
It's like, maybe that was when this was written. I don't know, but it seems I know it's quite a known film, but it seems still quite a dated reference to sort of be bringing up. There was other things like, actually, you know, they go to Thailand and that's that. They actually meet very few people. The cast is actually quite small. There's only a few, and they all end up speaking English. Even the news broadcast on TV is in English, and obviously the underground fighting scene and stuff that we get. There's a scene where they go, where they're in early in the film, they're singing in their car, and they're clearly singing to a completely different track than the one that's being played. Which normally there is some, you know, they tie the two together, don't they? Even if one's what they call diegetic part of the film, non-diegetic, which is, you know, on the outside. But here they seem to have done that by accident, or they lost the rights to the song that they were going to use. Probably, so it looks really awkward. But there's loads of really weird little bits about it. But I will say there's a couple of things that stood out. I thought Wallace Day, who is the one with the blue hair, yeah, I thought she was quite striking and did steal the film. I thought she was really interesting. Turns out she's a British actress.
She is
from like Hollyoaks and stuff. Yeah, and she was also recast as she was in a guest starring role. She was the recasting of Ruby Rose as Batwoman.
That's right.
Or the actress who played, or the character, sorry, Kate King or something, I think her name was. But she appeared in the second series. And I actually think that's quite an interesting one, because this character with her blue hair seems like it could have been written for Ruby Rose. Although I did think she is better than Ruby Rose. I'm not really a Ruby Rose fan, but I thought I liked her in this. I thought she was good. I thought she was convincing, especially, say, doing an American accent and everything. She was pretty good. It's just in those sort of romantic scenes, let's say, that just didn't work at all. It was almost like the director was like, I really want to see this. And they're like, but we don't want to do that. It's like, yeah, but just do it, kind of thing. And I'm like, okay. And so yeah, she was really good. The other one was there's the guy in the cast who's Jack Elvey, who's like the pilot character, there's a bit more mysterious about him kind of going on. Now he's got a really familiar look about him, and I could swear I've seen him in something else, but I look on his filmography and I don't recognize anything. So I'm thinking he must just look like somebody else who I've watched recently, because I thought he's got a really good presence about him. He just really reminds me of someone, but he was cool. I liked him. I thought he was a good asset to the film. So there's not much of the cast is really small. There's really not many there. But I thought I didn't like Sasha Lass really as Diamond. I didn't really like Sky Jackson's character, mainly because she was just that. She got them into all the trouble in the first place. She doesn't have anything to do apart from get them into trouble and just want to do coke all the time, which is just not really a very appealing character trait. And Isabel Furman, I like her and she's fine in it, but she's the most experienced actress in the cast, and she really deserves to be getting better roles than this. And it's really not. I just feel awkward seeing her sort of put into some of these situations that she's in this particular film. So it's not good overall. I mean, there's enough that's bad about it that's quite entertaining, but I would say it's certainly one that you've got to be wary of what you're getting into when you see it. It's not I was really excited about when I saw the trailer. I thought, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, but no, it wasn't. It's got Chaos, Chaos Sander. So I've got his name wrong anyway. He's a Thai filmmaker who is a cinematographer and producer and director. He directed Ballistic X versus Sever. That was kind of his that was almost going to be his breakout, but that didn't do very well, and he's ended up basically he went back to Thailand. He makes lots of stuff in Thailand. He's done I think it was called Zero Tolerance that Scott Adkins was in. I'm pretty sure he either directed it or produced it or had a hand in it otherwise. But yeah, most of what I've seen come from him hasn't been very good. And even though he's not directing it, it's kind of got his stamp on it. And it's, it's just a bit of a letdown. I don't know what this Jordan Gerton has done. I'm just having a quick look at his credits.
Well, this is his first directorial.
Oh, okay. He's got two more lined up, but he's mostly been in production. So he's a producer turned director. Funnily enough, he was a producer on Spring Breakers, which is a sort of an ancestor of this particular film, I would say, because that's got the, it's another one about four girls getting into trouble with drugs or something. I can't remember. I've never seen it. It's the one with James Franco, I think, is the guy. It's a Harmony Korine film. But yeah, so that's probably an ancestor of this one, and I can understand why it's just had this very, very quiet release on Paramount Plus. I just discovered it there as I was sort of going through. Sasha Lass, I didn't like Anna. I don't know about you, but I thought that film just didn't quite work. But I didn't think it was her fault. I thought she was fine in it.
She was fine.
But overall, the film was just too baggy, and they tried to make it too much of a serious spy thriller rather than the sort of lively action movie that they were necessarily. Luc Besson had made.
It's weird as well, isn't it, that she seems to be playing a younger character in this than she was in Anna, which was about 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago now. because yeah, she's the one with the modeling background and sort of model turned actress kind of thing, and that can go one of two ways. But I thought, you know, she did show potential, I thought, but that potential is not realized in this film at all. But I would say, you know, the one good thing that's come out of this is I've seen Wallace Day. I'm really interested to see what other stuff she's done.
Yeah,
she's got a really good presence. She's a good, it's a good takeaway.
On that note, Rich, how are you going to score it?
I'm going to go 4.
Have to agree. Yep, 2 4s for Sheroes. You can find this in the UK on Paramount Plus. Go check it out. Our next review is Slotherhouse. Emily Young, a senior, wants to be elected as her sorority's president. She adopts a cute sloth, thinking it can become the new mascot and help her win, until a string of fatalities implicate the sloth as the main suspect in the murders. I mentioned earlier, Rich and Steve, that there was a couple of films this month or this week that made me feel really old, and this is the second one. You know, I felt like such a granddad watching this. It's another film like Sheroes that's trying to be too hip for its own good. It's the whole, I've got to have likes on my Facebook page or my Twitter feed or my YouTube channel. You know, it's like, okay. So we got this girl who's you know, she means well. She ends up with this sloth, this 3-toed sloth thing, which you know, unbeknownst to everyone, is totally homicidal. We know because we've seen it murder a crocodile in the opening prologue, and off it goes. It's where this film lost me is when the sloth starts scouring the internet or scouring a Facebook page. That is, yeah, that's the bit that broke me basically, and yeah, I found it very difficult to sort of get back into the flow of it. Steve,
not when it was driving the car.
that was
even though, how did it reach the pedals?
Jesus. Well, it does have long arms, but anyway. Steve, I mean, you know, obviously this is not meant to be taken seriously, and it's still, you know, but it doesn't want to be too taken seriously, but at the same time it tries to play it quite straight, you know, quite straight faced, and the puppetry is pretty good. But what did you make of it?
I enjoyed it actually. Yeah, like, with a film featuring a killer sloth, it's not high art. You know what I mean? It is what it is, and it does it quite well. The only thing that I think it needed really was just a little bit more gore.
Yes.
And I'm not the gore round of the group, obviously, but it just seemed a little bit too relaxed in that way. There's not. I don't think you actually see a killing on screen.
No, it's off-screen kills basically all the way.
Yeah, all the way through, which disappointed me a little bit. But you know, it is stupid, it's ridiculous, but it's just fun. And one thing that did surprise me was seeing Tiff Stevenson in it as well as like not the madam of the.
She the house mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, the house mother. Yeah, who's a British stand-up who I think has been on Mock Week and stuff quite a lot, and she's really
okay.
Yeah. So she came on, I'm like, I know her. And then I look up. Yeah, so yeah, I just think you need a little bit more bite. Well, like you say, I mean, you know, the first 10, 15 minutes, it is all like Instagram-y stuff. But I actually thought that was quite a good shortcut because it was coming up with the names. Like you say, you don't like it when they do that in films, but to me, in this one, it actually kind of made sense. There's quite a lot of girls in the sorority.
Yeah.
And he just give you that shortcut to kind of get to know the names and stuff that being introduced separately.
Yeah, because this is the version of that trope where instead of not just the character name, but we get like a little bit about their interests and sort of a descriptive. Some of that was too quick for me because I couldn't read it quick enough.
Yeah,
but I don't mind. I didn't mind it. I thought, but it was. I was just thinking it was funny. It was like, both of the films this week from Paramount Plus have both had a sort of punny sort of title, if you will.
Yeah.
And they're both like about young women. They're both very focused on social media, and they both use these same kind of conventions. That both completely different films, but they do sort of try and plot, do similar things, which I sort of anyway.
There are some nice nods to this. There are some nice nods to other films. I don't know if you spotted the Dario Argento nod.
Oh no, I didn't see that one. Which one was that?
There's a montage of like kills, and there's one girl who sort of picks up a t-shirt and looks. We see her looking through the slash marks, which is from Tenebrae, which is one of the Dario Argento's. Okay. It's a very famous image, basically.
One thing I did pick up on that there are loads of references in this, so I probably didn't catch half of them. That some of them were sort of jumped out. I mean, there's a shot from Halloween. There's a bit of dialogue from The Thing. There's the music, sort of like a leans into the music from Psycho, and something else. One Star Wars. There's a Star Wars bit in there. I think there's loads of that stuff peppered through that I didn't really pick it up until like about halfway through the film. So there's probably a bunch from the first half of that I probably just completely wasn't picking up on, and if I went back and watched it, I'd pick up on a bit more. So I actually thought that was quite well done. That sort of those little references. Some of them were a bit heavy-handed, but some of it was nicely quite subtle. Like when there's a shot from Halloween, they play that really nicely. It works within the context of the story. It's not like you're going, oh, we're pausing to do a reference here. It's it looks quite organic, and anybody who's a fan will look at it and go, yeah, I know what they've done there. Exactly. So I thought that was quite nice.
One of the pieces of script I did like was the fact that her best friend chews her out for getting the sloth. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? It's a wild animal. Why do you think it's a good idea to keep it here in your dorm? You don't even know what it eats. You don't know, anything about it. It's just like you've just had this harebrained idea to be popular. And I thought, it was a good moment to sort of properly sort of call her out, because she's a friend. So she's the one that want to do it. So I like that, and of course, she's the one that the sloth wants to get rid of as a result. And those bits, those attempts, I thought was very good. And of course, she gets the final say as to what's going on. Did enjoy that. I have no idea how the main character hasn't been arrested. Basically, it's certainly accessory to a man, to a massacre. But anyway, it's fun, yeah. But how about you, Rich? What did you make of it?
I thought I quite liked it. I mean, the problem, I think the main problem with it is that the only way they were able to make the concept work was to move away from the concept. So the sloth is like really fast, it's like moving, it's like getting around like all over the place. It's super intelligent, and it's more like it's like like Gremlins almost. I mean, there's a Gremlins element
Chucky
to it,
or something like that.
Chucky or something there where they've got like a lot Abigail. Of like intelligence. And it was like, okay, I can see how. Okay, you take the opening scene and the sloth goes in with the crocodile, and it basically, wins the fight. That's fine, but there's nothing to apart from maybe it's more aggressive in the moment. But I was thinking that the whole point of the concept is it's a killer sloth, but then they've kind of made it not a killer sloth because it's just not it's just they've made it into another animal, just happens to look like a sloth. So I thought that was a bit, it seemed like too much of a shortcut, sort of an easy way out of the concept that you're selling in the first place.
There was nothing, there was nothing like, it's been experimented on, so it's now super intelligent or anything like that, or it's been pumped.
I wouldn't have minded
drugs.
that. No.
Yeah, exactly. That would have made sense. But no, we're supposed to say. I suppose what they're trying to say is like, yeah, it's a sloth. No, it's supposedly sleeps like 23 hours a day or some shit like that. But that's what they want you to think.
Yeah,
it's kind of that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think I could have. I think that was sort of part of what I was trying to justify it with myself, but then it starts surfing the internet and driving a car and stuff, and say I can accept that to a degree. There was one bit where I got a bit lost because it was like there was it was the countdown to the election thing, and it was like all the weeks going by or days going by in the sorority, and they're doing lots of fun and stuff, and it's like counting down weeks, and it's all just fun and japes. But then as you get closer to the election, that's when the sloth starts killing people in the montage. And I was like, well, why is it weighted? Why was it not killing people from the start? And why nobody ever seems to? Well, it's not. It's not killing off the opposition. It just wants to kill people because it's homicidal. But why did it wait? And also, the girl who gets killed first, nobody ever seems to wonder where she is. It's like why she's gone missing and stuff.
Well,
so there's little bits.
I mean, we're supposed to sort of assume then that the sloth gets rid of the body or something.
Yep. Or something. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing, but there's all. So going back to the start, when the title comes up, it's got the 3 slash marks, and I think that could be misconstrued as this is Slotherhouse 3. Which, and I don't know if that was an intentional thing or not, but anyway, that's how that comes up. The concept itself, I'm good with. Say Gremlins, even something like Evolver. Person comes into possession of thing, or living sort of living thing or living thing that ends up being more dangerous than they expected, and it starts killing people. So that's fine. I quite like that plot. I liked and appreciated the fact that they'd made the sloth a practical puppet. Which they stick to for the whole film. I don't think there's any CGI that I noticed. Maybe there might be a bit of blood CGI and stuff, but this seemed light on CGI compared to something like Cocaine Bear, where the whole thing had to be done with CGI essentially. So I liked that. So I thought the concept, the kills being off screen lets it down. That's always a problem, I think, when the audience want to see the kills. That's with this kind of thing. That's what they're there for. The in jokes I liked. I thought the whole sort of setup and the sorority and the locations and everything worked quite nicely. It was known. I don't know if you noticed, but on the end credits, I noticed a lot of foreign names, interesting accents and characters and whatever. This was actually made in Serbia, which I thought which is not uncommon for
lots of Bulgaria,
to be used for locations. You just get everyone there, you put a location, you get the cast, and jobs are good kind of thing. And I thought that that was clearly a budgetary decision that paid off really nicely, because you wouldn't. I don't think you would have. But there's lots of films that are set in America that are not made in America. Like, for example, we were talking about The Beekeeper, which came out recently, the Jason Statham film, all set in Massachusetts, all shot in the southeast of England and southwest of England. So when that's done well, that works nicely, and it did here. That pays off. I thought the cast were quite good. I thought the problem with maybe the protagonist, she's quite likable and sympathetic, but then she's also got this
narcissism,
the desire, for the likes and everything, which kind of takes you, you're like, oh well, I don't really like that about you. So you're supposed to be the sympathetic character, and does she really learn her lesson by the end? I'm not sure if she does. They tried to make her the likable one by positioning her against the bitch of the house, basically. The mean girl. And but really they're all in the same kind of pot, basically. This the sorority girls kind of thing. So they're all basically they've got these unappealing characteristics in there. But anyway, that aside, that's all thing. And I think if you're interested in like a college set, horror comedy, go and watch Ghoulies Go to College. No, but seriously, watch Ghoulies Go to College, but give this a go as well. But Ghoulies Go to College is much better.
Mm-hmm. On that note, how are we going to score it? Over to Steve.
I'll give it a 6.
And Rich.
I'll give it a 6 because it pulls too many of those punches and stuff, unfortunately.
3 6s for Slotherhouse. You'll find this in the UK on Paramount Plus, and it's getting a VOD release in the States very soon.
And it'll be out in the UK on VOD or electronic software, I'm not sure, but it is coming out in February.
Okay.
Over here.
Go check it out. Our short shot this week is The Lumberjack. A grieving novelist retreats to a remote mountain cabin to find solace, but soon he will find himself in a fight for survival against a malevolent spirit. Okay. So this is very well shot, very well put together, quite atmospheric, and narratively a pile of bullshit. This is a film that really bounced me out of the story at a certain point when our novelist is scrubbing the cabin floor and in one of the most contrived moves ever discovers this bound book that he starts reading. And even though they kind of explain it later on in the film, at that moment I was thrown out because he starts narrating the story that he's reading in the book. And there's no way that story can be there given what actually happens in the film. Because who's writing it? But anyway, that's me. We'll talk about this later, I'm sure. Steve, what did you make of The Lumberjack?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. It looks great. I mean, the drone shots and the aerial shots of the forest and stuff look absolutely fantastic. And I did have an issue with the dubbing as well. Mm-hmm. It's clearly, I think it was Greek in origin.
It's a Greek production when they've done the old, a bit like the old Italian movies. They've made it for an English audience, so they've shot it in English and they've basically got some actors in or whatever to sort of loop the dialogue so that it's clearer rather than accented. But it's Greek.
The dialogue performance I thought was terrible. It just didn't match up with the emotions. I mean, I know it's a kind of a study on grief and stuff like that, but it just didn't work at all. I can't put my finger on it, but it just didn't drag me. I think I did it out there. Really, it was 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
If you're doing something like this as a short, to me it's too long. I don't think it needed to be this long. There's no push, no verve. It's just very drab and slow. And like you say, it doesn't make sense. It wouldn't. The book appearing and narrating the story, no. I did kind of like the ending though. The ending kind of reminded me of Candyman.
Yeah.
Where it's going to loop round again and happen again, type thing. But apart from that,
but in which case the emphasis is on the wrong thing, isn't it?
Exactly.
The emphasis should be on the book, not the figure. If you see what I mean. If it's going to sort of loop round, there's no rhyme or reason for what actually happens in the film. There's no rhyme or reason for him having, visions of his dead wife telling him what to do, and then on top of that, not getting the opportunity to do what she says. It just never manifests itself that he has a choice to make. You know, the stuff just happens. So that whole scene is totally superfluous. So what, you know, if he ends up in the afterlife and sees her, he could go up to her going, "What the hell are you on about? You know, you're telling me all that stuff. You just filled my head with nonsense, and you know, nothing actually happened the way you told it. It's crazy." I do want to sort of highlight something. I've actually paused the screen for this. You know, this is definitely, you know, a lot of work has fallen on the director's shoulders. Dimitris Samparas, you know, director, writer, cinematographer, editor, colorist, and sound mixer. I mean, that's a lot. You know, clearly this is you know, a passion project. And he's sort of taking on all these roles, and in every aspect apart from writer, I think he does an excellent job. You know, it is very atmospheric. You know, it looks great, it sounds great. It's just that script. It doesn't work. You know, really, it's just confusing. Rich, you curated this one for us as usual. What do you make of it?
I'm on board with a lot of what you guys have already observed. You know, fantastic look to it. You know, it's a quite a slowly paced film. I found it quite interesting in terms of its aesthetics, perhaps more than its story. But and it could have dealt with being a bit. Could have done with being a bit tighter. It is a bit slow. It was originally conceived as a 10-minute film, and they kind of elaborated it. I think they could have found a middle ground, you know, maybe about 20 minutes to do it, because it is a one-man show for most of the running time. It's a Greek production. There's some English language dialogue, but there's not a lot in it. They sort of intentionally made it very much a sort of a quiet film about this one character sort of reflecting and stuff. But there is some dialogue scenes and some voiceover stuff.
Yeah, we don't get any live dialogue until about 16 minutes into the film. I mean, you know, we do get here a woman's voice on a recording earlier, yes. But you know, before anyone actually speaks on camera, you know, it's a good sort of, you know, quarter of the way through the film.
And I think that's the point where you realise that it's not an American or English or whatever production, is that when you know, that say there is that sort of noticeable dubbing. But I thought that actually, you know, that does take you out a little bit, but it does make that actually impress me more, because I was thinking, oh, I've not seen something like this from, you know, you look up directly like Greece or something. I was like, oh, that's really interesting. That's you know, there's a product, you know, a filmmaker. He's got his company, Seventh Art Films, making these very, very high standard, you know, short films, and possibly, you know, I could expect, you know, that he'll sort of edge towards, you know, a feature. I think that's what this is an attempt to do, sort of move in that direction. But like I said, I don't think this was quite the right thing. I think it's got some of those aforementioned, you know, the issues that you've mentioned. But I think I was really taken with his, you know, cinematography as much as anything else. So I think even if maybe he doesn't become a director, but you know, if he broadens his sort of you know, work as a cinematographer, you know, and goes off to Hollywood and does that, I thought, you know, that would be a benefit. You know, there's so many. I mean, this looks better than so many, you know, direct-to-video movies that we've seen. I think, yeah. And you know, he's clearly got the goods where that comes in. So I think that's it. As I say, it sort of does things we've seen in other films. There's nothing sort of remarkably original, but I think all things considered, it's got its problems. But I think it's an interesting and quite ambitious, you know, project that's been mostly well executed. Say, especially in the film. I don't know if he did the editing as well, but it's also, you know, it's a good. He is down there. So say it's almost like maybe he is a one-man band essentially. Say essentially doing all these roles, very small cast. You know, he's probably spent a long time making it, and you got to respect that. I mean, he's clearly done a lot with this, invested a lot in it, and I think it shows a great deal of promise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Okay, we do not score the shorts, but we do recommend you check them out, and you will find a link to this in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Our DTV throwback this week is Wrongfully Accused. Ryan Harrison, a famed concert violinist, is framed for murder and must prove himself innocent by finding a mysterious one-eyed, one-armed, one-legged man after escaping from a bus accident on the way to jail. This is a spoof on The Fugitive, starring Leslie Nielsen, Kenny LeBrock, Michael York, and Richard Crenna. Great cast. This is, it's not the freshest of the spoof movies. It's way down the line from the likes of Hot Shots and even sort of Scary Movie. I think had come out by the time this had turned up. It is fun. Is it funny? I must admit, I did chuckle once or twice. My son, who is 16 and had never seen this, he has watched things like The Naked Gun, parts 1 and 2. He kind of made this noise while he's watching it. I could hear those sort of noises coming from him, but he never sort of managed to actually laugh as such. So he was sort of like, he got some enjoyment out of it, but nothing to actually sort of make him laugh out loud, unfortunately. Steve, had you seen this one before? And if not, what do you make of it?
No, I hadn't, and I'm glad, to be honest.
I didn't even realize this one existed until Rich showed.
I remember seeing the trailer years ago, but it's terrible. I'm sorry. I mean, I love Leslie Nielsen. Like I say, I love the classics, Airplane, Naked Gun, even Police Squad. This series was great. This is absolutely shocking. This is on a level of like epic movie and date movie.
No.
I think it's a bit better than that. What's the other one he did? He did a True Lies one as well, didn't he?
He did. He did Spy Hard.
Yeah, that riffs on True Lies a bit.
Didn't find it funny at all. Yeah, I mean, like the bit with the strimmer, where he cuts his shoes off and stuff. Just no.
Come on, it's great.
No, it wasn't. I mean, just don't get me wrong. If it's a funny film, I'll laugh as much as the next one. I didn't even get to the noises Josh was making. I was just rolling my eyes. It took me 2 watches because I fell asleep the first time watching it. It was terrible. I mean, I love Leslie Nielsen, but no, it was god awful. It really was.
Yeah, I don't know. There was 1 or 2 times, as I said, it did make me chuckle. I did like, there's certain good sort of sight gags and things going on. It is incredibly silly. It really is. I think it was a slapstick that Josh enjoyed more than anything. When he's getting whacked.
I don't mind silly.
Yeah.
I don't mind silly so long as it's funny, and it just wasn't. I don't. This must be one of the flattest comedies I've ever seen. Or supposed comedies.
Yeah. Rich, had you seen this one before?
I did, but I hadn't seen it for a long time. But I always knew that it was not that it wasn't one of his best, and that its fate as a straight to video release was understandable. I think in terms of the sort of it was part of a natural progression downwards for Leslie Nielsen's sort of spoofs. So this was coming after the Naked after the Three Naked Gun movies.
Yeah.
And then just before this, he did Mr. Magoo, which obviously wasn't a spoof movie, but basically he'd done the Naked Gun movies, and then it was kind of, some time went by. He did this one, which didn't perform well. Then a couple of years later, he did what is probably his worst one, which was what was it? 2001: A Space Travesty.
All right.
Oh, sorry, Spy. No, I missed Spy Hard and stuff. So he did the Naked Gun movies. He did Dracula Dead and Loving It, which I weirdly never saw. I've still never seen it. I'm a massive Leslie Nielsen fan. Spoofs. I've weirdly never seen it. It's never been the right time or whatever. Anyway, Spy Hard, which I loved, that was in cinemas in 1996, and so this came out 2 years after that, just after Mr. Magoo, which also didn't do very well. And then say 2001: A Space Travesty was 2000, which is the worst one. That's trying really hard, and it's not very good at all. Mainly trying to copy the Naked Gun, but do it in space and having all these. But this one, I think, is kind of in that middle ground. It's not very good. It's a fairly polished sort of Warner Brothers movie. It's got a decent budget. It's very short. It's only like an hour and 15 minutes long. I found it quite breezy. What I find quite interesting with some of these films, especially the ones that are referencing particular films or have been assembled, say like I mean, I think this isn't like epic movie and stuff, but it is. But I do agree with you that it is in a way, because a lot of those movies were just, oh, let's take that scene from that movie and that scene from that movie, and we'll kind of cobble a movie together. And this is a spoof of The Fugitive, which throws in loads of other stuff, which is kind of similar to what they did with Spy Hard, although Spy Hard was more like Naked Gun, where they weren't actually referencing anything in particular as the main sort of inspiration. So this is zeroing in on The Fugitive, which in itself seems an odd choice as well, because this was 1998 and The Fugitive was 5 years earlier. So it already seems like, I mean, this was the same year, I think, possibly, or around the same time as US Marshals. So it was still in the kind of mindset. But still, a lot of time's gone by. Anyway, so I think that might be one of the issues. So who knows if the script was knocking around. The main interesting thing for me as a spoof fan is that this was the directorial debut and sole directorial credit, after obviously it failed, of Pat Proft, who not only has a really long history with the spoofs, like the Hot Shots movies and Naked Gun movies, but he created the Police Academy. Yeah, so I expected a lot from him, being like one of the greatest writers of these kind of movies, to really deliver. And that's probably the most disappointing, is that it doesn't deliver. And it starts out it takes a while to get going. It's got some quite lazy jokes at the start, and it's all the Michael Flatley stuff, and somebody sort of showing somebody around in the theater with a lightsaber and stuff. It's like, but I think once it gets into its rhythm and the cast start getting to shine, like, Michael York's fantastic, and Kelly LeBrock does the femme fatale kind of thing, which is always in these Leslie Nielsen sort of movies. I did have a lot of fun with it, and I thought there's little jokes like the Usual Suspects bit where he's saying about, I was up at Piffle Waffle down at the and he's just reading up random things, and then like a couple of minutes goes by, and then the guy who he's talking to, which I believe was the host of America's Most Wanted or something like that, which would be a joke completely lost on us because we don't ever watch that, but I think that's what he's from, something like that. So then he's looking at the board and he puts it all together, but that's the end of the joke. That's it. It doesn't go anywhere after that. But Richard Crenna's fantastic. I mean, Richard Crenna, who'd also done Hot Shots Part Deux. Again, not a comedy guy, but they really he really sold everything. He was doing the Tommy Lee Jones stuff really well. For me, I thought that works really nicely. So it's a brisk running time. I think if you're a spoof fan, it's not great. It's got its problems. It's too much. It's a slave to sort of its period and trying to do all these sort of particular film references, which makes it an interesting kind of time capsule. Titanic and stuff is all in there. But it's
and
certainly
it spends a long time on a sex scene as well. It's weird. Now, looking back at it now, it's like, yeah, okay, that's weird.
Well, there's always a lot. There's all the Leslie Nielsen movies have had that kind of age, what would be really age inappropriate relationships. And say sex scenes and stuff have always sort of formed part of those. Like going back, the Naked Gun with the him and Priscilla Presley dressed in the condoms and stuff like that. But the and yeah, him just sort of being they always paint him as like this really irresistible guy, whatever, which is quite funny. And I think I think Leslie Nielsen just really carries it. I think he's got if it was they wouldn't have been this is a Leslie Nielsen movie. They wouldn't have been able to make it with anyone else. It wouldn't have worked even half as well. Even though it doesn't work that well, it just wouldn't have worked at all with anyone else. It's because of him, his charm and that really is one of the things that carries it along. Would I rather watch Spy Hard or Naked Gun 33 1/3? Yes, absolutely. But I was so thrilled when this turned up on Prime to finally get a chance to give it another shot and spend a bit more time with Leslie Nielsen, because obviously we lost him in 2010. We won't get any more movies like this, and some of the ones that he did make were worse than this. So I do like that. It's got that polish and quality and stuff to it. And I just wish I do wish it was better, but then it wouldn't have been a DTV movie, and I wouldn't be able to talk about it with you guys. So every cloud.
Savor the wins, basically.
Yeah.
Okay,
but it's not for everyone, as we found with Steve really didn't get on with it at all. So you dear listener, might be more like Steve when you watch it and think, why the hell am I watching this?
Yeah. See, I remember. Do you remember, Steve, when we covered a film called Stir Crazy on the Smoking Lamb?
Yeah, the
Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching that as a kid or as a early teen and laughing my head off. And when we watched it again, it was like, oh my god, this is like the worst piece of crap ever. It was just so weird. So it's good in a way that this has sort of stood the test of time a bit. It's not just a film of its moment. I guess it helps if you are a seasoned movie fan and can spot the references it's going for. That obviously helps. But the deadpan delivery and that sort of stuff all works. But it's just lacking that the extra spark from the the naked guns and the airplanes and that sort of thing. Cool. Okay. We do not score the throwbacks, but we do recommend you check them out. And as Rich mentioned, this is now turned up on Amazon's Prime. So if you're a subscriber, go check it out. And that is the end of this week's show. So thanks for listening. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter at the DTV Digest. Also the Short Shots, where we've got a whole library of links for short films of different genres, fan films, horror films, martial arts films. It's all there. We've got hundreds of the damn things that Richard's been sort of curating for us over the past few years. Go check them out. Other than that, thank you for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.